Every man should be careful with this matter. Men should not possess impulsive nature, meaning that men are not supposed to act before they think. I asked a question about Mr. CY and his wife. I was told that before the marriage that the lady was a great fighter. She can beat 5 girls in one encounter, and that was the reason Mr. CY married her. He married her because he wants a strong woman that can guide the house and believe that his wife will be capable of troubling any troublemaker in his family. He did this not knowing that a troublemaker will always look for trouble, and when there is no trouble anywhere, a troublemaker will become a trouble herself. Now there is no trouble anywhere. The wife wants to create one by making all effort to get her husband fight with the landlord. When Mr. CY, her husband, left home, she applied bandage in her hand, pretending that she has been beaten again and has sustained injury as a result of that. Nothing will satisfy Mrs. CY more than seeing her husband beat the landlord. One may ask, why is she fighting to have her landlord beaten? The truth remains that she has no reason other than being who she is, a troublemaker and a trouble seeker. She came out of the house to wait for the husband. After some minutes, she noticed the presence of the husband outside the gate. She applied her spittle on her face and started crying in pretense. The husband came back from where he went to. Mr. CY became mad immediately seeing the wife's hand bandaged. He asked her to tell him what happened to her, and he was fuming in anger, ready to fight anybody for this reason. She lied by telling him that the landlord beat her up for no reason. Mr. CY rushed out immediately to meet with the landlord. The troublemaker Mrs. CY became very happy because her plan was working. This time, Mr. CY did not ask questions because he has seen his wife wounded. When he saw the wound, that which lives in almost every man grew in him. That feeling of protecting your woman or your mother grew in him, and little did he know that his wife was just setting a trap for him. Mrs. CY became extremely happy. She said, "Yes, now my husband has started behaving like men do." Mr. CY angrily moved to the landlord. This time, not to ask questions about what happened, but to fight him. Mr. CY held the landlord by the collar before asking him questions and at the same time abusing him. The landlord was surprised because he did not know what happened this time and what brought about his tenant fighting him. Immediately, the troublemaker appeared to motivate them to fight. She told the landlord that today will be the last day he will ever look for her trouble. The landlord doesn't look for trouble, but whenever trouble comes to his doorstep looking for him, he will welcome it and make it his companion. In the course of this trouble, Mr. CY slowed down in his action, but the presence of his wife and her motivation moved him to action. The wife hit the landlord from behind and urged her husband to hit him also. Mr. Landlord did not respond to the beating and the insult they were unleashing on him. I forgot to tell us that the landlord was actually a man who follows the native way. He doesn't look for trouble but ever ready to entertain anyone. He kept enduring their insults, expecting them to stop, but the more quiet he kept, the more the insult. He raised his hand and hit him once with what he called hit and fall. It is with a force of a diabolic power. Immediately he fell down, the landlord started leaving and the wife started begging because the husband has been hypnotized. The diabolic force of that punch is capable of putting someone under a spell bond for days. She has landed her husband into trouble of what can be called partial coma. Now she has to carry the burden alone. She carried the husband to their own apartment, not knowing what to do. A peaceful man has been landed into trouble because he got married to a troublesome woman. Mrs. CY started crying as that was the only thing she could think of doing. She raised her husband up and removed his clothes. The confused woman was just doing anything that entered her brain that moment. Now, she had decided to remove the bandage she tied on her hand, almost putting the blame on the bandage. She did not know whether to fan the husband or to do otherwise. She rushed into the house and brought a bucket of water to sprinkle on him. She was sprinkling and was crying at the same time. As that was going on, something happened. The landlord came by. When the landlord was passing by, a terrible fear gripped Mrs. CY. She bent behind the husband, staring at the landlord in great fear. The landlord stepped back into her own eyes as a sign of warning and down to the fainted man, Mr. CY. After that, the landlord left them. Mrs. CY did not stand up until the landlord went away. When the landlord left, she started crying and sprinkling the water on him to wake up. In this video, we are not trying to magnify negative power, but to draw a lesson from the story. In marriage, we must be careful the reason we are choosing a life partner. Mr. CY chose his wife simply because she has physical strength to beat 5 ladies in one encounter, and as such can handle any troublemaker around him. He did that forgetting that such a fighter can never maintain peace, which he must need between him and his wife. Share this video and we are coming next Friday with a powerful episode. Please help us to pass this information around by sharing this video. Follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel. and make sure you turn on the notification bell for you to get our videos each time we post new videos. See you next Friday. Thank you for your support.